I just want to showcase some of my code and some of the some of the sprites I drew for the game. I thought it was a good way to put evidence in a kind of unique, not boring way. Plus, it's kind of less work for me, if I have to be honest. So I hope you liked the video. Okay, so let's check this out. This is how the Godot launcher looks like. You have your different projects and you can either directly run it or just open it up and edit it. So once I have it open up, you can see that I have many tabs. You got one for the assets for the actual game, for the script, 2D and 3D. In this game, we didn't use any 3D features, so this is basically useless, but everything else does work. This one can, because we hooked it up to C#, we're not using the normal Go script, like manager, I guess, handler or whatever. Here you can only pretty much see how the Godot nodes work. What is a Godot node? Okay, so Godot organizes itself by making you create a scene containing a tree of nodes, right? So for example, here I have this bullet. Okay, this bullet has a root node, which is the most important piece, and then it has what we call child nodes under it that are affiliated with it, right? So what's very tactical about this is that Godot already has some code for different kinds of nodes. Hold on. It has many nodes that have different characteristics and that you can use as building blocks for whatever game you're trying to make. And then if those characteristics aren't enough, you can go to your node and you can attach a script to add more, right? So for example, whenever I open a script, it connects to Visual Studio Code. This is the program I decided to use for this, and you will see that it inherits the characteristics of this node, so rigid body 2D, and then creates a class out of it. So in this case, bullet base, because this is the base bullet that I created. What you will see is then that I can take this scene and I can basically turn all of this into a single node that I can place inside another scene. So for example, here I have this scene HUD with all of the UI things, all of the UI nodes, and I can instantiate this node into my main scene, which is the scene that we are actually going to run for the game. It's also possible to switch from one scene to the other, but I didn't use that in this project. I know other people, I think Kevin used it, but here I didn't use it. I prefer to keep everything in one scene. So how does the game work? What do I want it to do? So the idea of the game is that it's just like a normal game of the bullet hell genre. I don't know if you're familiar with the bullet hell genre, but you're basically just a player and you dodge things, right? So it's actually a really simple game. I went with this kind of game because I thought, damn, first time, I only got 4 weeks, I gotta look out, right? So what happens is you're presented with like a start screen. You have a reset button here. Here's the start button, which is basically all of this. You can either click this or press the spacebar to start the game. And I haven't done this part yet, but I'm going to add a tutorial button, over this side that just tells you the rules of the game in case you don't understand them. But it is pretty intuitive, so I don't think that should be a real problem. So anyway, when you start a game, what happens is you are a player, you can move around. There's a bunch of bullets that come your way. The white ones you can stop and knock around, you know. And the white ones, no, not the white ones, the blue ones actually end your game, like it triggers a game over, right? So the idea is that you use the white ones once the blue ones start spawning fast enough, you use the white ones as cover to try and survive as long as possible and like beat your friends or whatever, right? Or yourself, same thing. So I made it so that every second you gain 2 points of score, as you can see in this counter right here, and once the score reaches a certain milestone, the wave advances. With the advances of a wave, the bullets will start spawning more frequently. Like for example, I don't know if you know this, but the moment it hit wave 3, the bullets started speeding up, and different bullets will appear. Like for example, a yellow one. I set the yellow bullet to follow the player wherever it goes, and if it knocks into other If it knocks into other bullets, then it will clear them. And if it's a blue bullet, because it harms you, I wanted to incentivize making it run into blue bullets, right? So I made it so it adds points to your score if you do that. And whenever a yellow bullet breaks, because you managed to break it by positioning yourself correctly, I also made you gain points from that. So once your game is over, you're presented with these two buttons. Here you can, if you try to go forward without putting anything in there, it asks for your name. You can put your initials here. I only allowed 3 because I thought it gave it more of an arcade feel, and I kind of wanted it to feel like that. And depending on this score, only some buttons in the start screen are shown, right? So if you get to 250 points, which is I think wave 4, if I'm not, yeah, it's wave 4, you should be able to unlock both the white and green skin and you can play with the screen model too. So basically I set up some rewards that you can win, right? Cool. Now let's check out the code real quick. So I have many different scripts in here. I have the main script that we already mentioned. We have the script for the normal bullet. We have a script for the HUD, so for all of the UI elements. We have a script for the player, which is one of the most important ones. We got a script for the yellow bullet and a script for the blue bullet, if I can find it. Here it is. And a script for the red box, which is another of the bullets, and a red box explosion. So these are all of the scripts that I have for my project. So as we can see, I've exported a bunch. I have a bunch of exported values. What does this mean? It basically means that it just takes a scene and like prepares it to be used, instantiated in this case, in the main one. So for example, when I go here to my scene tree, you're gonna notice that in the main scene, which is the one that we're running, there's not really any bullets. It's just the box the player is stuck in, the player itself, and this bullet path and its child nodes, which we will discuss later. The background, which I drew all the assets myself, by the way. The background of the game, the start position of the player, the UI, and the progress bar, right? And these timers. Okay, so you're probably asking yourself, how is the game spawning the bullets in if there's no bullets in the main scene? Well, that's because we are exporting it from these other scenes as like an already completed scene. We don't have the node in the tree. We just spawn the entirety of the scene through main by exporting it here in this menu. Every time you have you add an export. I think this is useless, by the way. Now I look at it. Sorry, I was gonna forget if I didn't do that. Every time we write down an export, it gives me the option to add a scene over here to the menu, right? This is kind of like a connection between Godot and the program here. So
Then we have a bunch of values that we're gonna check out through the video. We have all of these timers that, well, let's talk about game over once we talk about the game over in the game. This is the starting function of all of the game. New game, right? When the game starts, so when the start button, so that one challenge button that we saw earlier gets pressed, there's a bunch of things that happen. The player gets placed, we despawn all of the remaining bullets from last game, and we start this timer here, start timer. This is probably the most important one, because as we will see later, with start timer, all of these other timers begin, right? And you're probably thinking, why do you have so many timers? That's because of how the bullets itself work. So I have many different bullets, right? I have a base bullet, a blue bullet, a yellow bullet, and a red bullet. Here I have a timer for each one of the bullets. So I have a base bullet, a blue bullet, a yellow bullet, and a red bullet. Basically, how this code spawns the bullets in works like this. First of all, in the main script, we export the scene of the bullet, so we see which bullet we're talking about. Then we get these two nodes here that are called path2d and follow path2d. Path follow 2d, and we basically set with this node a path around the window that we're playing in, right? And then with this node instead, we're setting a point on this path that goes in it, like it walks through it, right? Okay. Basically what's happening here is that when start timer, which is this timer right here, that begins 1.5 seconds after I press the start button, begins, the bullet timer begins, and the blue bullet timer begins, and the score timer begins. So every time the bullet timer runs out, so every second, the main script will spawn, instantiate a base bullet on this node right here. For the blue one, it will do the same on blue gun, and on for the score timer, it will just increase the score, which is this value that we established right over here at this very start score, and we'll add 2 of this every second. So every half a second, because of how score timer works right here, I set it to half a second. Every second we get 2 points. Okay, good. Now you're probably wondering, why haven't we talked about the yellow and red timers yet? That's because I set them to only appear on later waves, right? How do the waves work, you ask of me? Once the score timer begins, we check for wave intervals. What does that mean? That means that in the first 2 or in first 3 waves, I set it to the wave interval to 50. This means that for every 50 points of the score, the wave counter increases by 1, right? The more complicated part is once we pass the 3rd wave, I wanted to change it because I thought, well, since the game is gonna get harder, now you need more time to get used to the faster bullets, and therefore it makes sense to have a longer wave interval. So I set the wave interval to 100 after 3 waves right here. When the wave counter updates to 4, the wave interval swaps to 100. Now what I was trying to say is, after wave 3, the node updates, right? It gets the timer and it starts it for a red box, because this is more than 3. So on wave 4, while if it's equal to wave 3, it starts a yellow timer, starting these bullets, right? So let's now look at the bullet code real quick. I know this video is already too long, but oh well. You can just skip through it if you don't really need to check all of the code. I think this is basically all of the main mechanics right now. Everything else is a little detail, so you don't really need to check all of it. Whoever's watching this video, by the way, hello. Here I got the code to show the UI. These are the reward buttons that I added as a last thing, like just to give the player a different skin. They can have a little reward for reaching a certain score, a kind of incentive to actually play the game, because I thought just beating your friends might not be enough. If you're not a competitive person, you have no interest in that. Therefore, you'll play the game like once or twice, then get bored and leave. But at least if I put a little reward, you might play the game for a little longer. You might get some more, like maybe 20 minutes more, half an hour more, which is already a lot, to be honest. 30 minutes of your time might be worth a lot more than you think, at least to a game developer. So I have the code for all the buttons. So I have for the name entries right here, and let's check out the bullets, right? So I got this bullet, a really simple code, really quick. It just checks if the body he hits is a yellow bullet, and if it is, it disappears. Now you're thinking, how does this even have collision? How does this work? There's no way. You're definitely missing a part of code. No, because we said we inherit from the rigid body 2D node. The rigid body 2D node already has physics, like a processor, a physics engine inside of Godot. So I didn't need to set up collision between different rigid body 2D nodes, which is really useful because Blue Bullet also happens to be a rigid 2D node. So for this one, I only had to set up the hitbox for the player and this minimum speed, because I didn't want the blue bullet to get stuck in the middle, right, of the screen, because that's just annoying and it makes the game way too hard. So I just had to add an hitbox and check if the hitbox got entered by either a player or a yellow bullet. In that case, it disappears. I mean, it also triggers a game over, so there's not really, actually, I could remove this. I'm better in my code while I talk about it. And then obviously this is just to despawn the bullet once it's off the screen. So this is also not complicated at all. The one that was a little bit more complicated was the yellow one, because I needed to give it an HP for it to disappear after 3 hits, and because I wanted it to play an animation every time it ran into something. So, but for everything else, it was pretty much the same. I only had to track down the player position to make it move in that direction, and give it like to update its angle to show that it's actually moving towards the player, because if not, it would just like point upwards and move like left, and it would make no sense. So as you see, it just takes a player and then it just looks at the direction and it just gets that direction. Cool. Next thing, red bullet. Red bullet, what does a red bullet do? It's a box. The red bullet looks like this. It's literally a red box. It flows into the screen and then slows down and then remains here. I'm not getting footage of the red box right now because it's actually hard to get to the wave where the red box is at. But I'll maybe get like a little clip of it working. If the player gets too close to the red box, or if a yellow bullet hits the red box, it explodes, clearing bullets around them. I made this little explosion animation for it, so it just looks like this, and that's it. Likewise, I made an animation for the bullets disappearing. You might have seen earlier. It's just like, and that's it. Then that's all of the bullets. The only thing that I added other than that basically is the progress bar, which was super easy thanks to the node that's already present in Godot. I just had to quickly link it to the wave interval and to the score to make it work. Super easy, super simple. And then the thing that was a bit more hard to do was the leaderboards, because I had to use libraries and I didn't know what libraries even were when I found out what I was using. Here I have the, hold on, let me find, here it is. Save scores. Basically it creates a file in which it records the top, no, not the top 100, the last 100 scores, and then only selects the top 10 scores, making sure that when it records one, if it has the same initials as one already present in the file, it just keeps the one with the highest score. Because if not, I would have a bunch of repeating names on the leaderboards and it wouldn't look very good.
For all of my sprite work, I've been using this program named Krita, which I think is very convenient. It's free, you can do animations on it, you have tools for symmetry, which are nice. You have a bunch of brushes that you can use. I use all of the pixel art ones for the sprites because, well, those are the ones that I need. And you can even install, if you search it up, a custom scripts for specific features that might be missing. For example, I downloaded this one, a sprite sheet generator, which takes every frame of the animation that you made, turns it into a sprite sheet, which is basically just one big PNG with all of these images in it, like in a just in a row and columns. And so it's better for the game engine because you can just import it instead of putting every image separately.